All right, we're live.
All right.
Paul, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I will. So this is Timlin Talks, and we're going to discuss some Microsoft 365. My name is Paul Telkamp. I'm a senior SharePoint consultant for Timlin Enterprises, and joining me is the president of Timlin Enterprises, Ryan Thomas.
Hey, everybody.
Today we're going to be discussing some changes to Microsoft 365, some document co-authoring, teams, and see how this goes. So this is our first one. Be sure to like and subscribe to YouTube and our LinkedIn. So,
all right.
So topic number one, changes to Office 365 rebranding to Microsoft 365. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, so mostly an information type update. I would say that Microsoft was selling Microsoft 365 as a license for a while that included a Windows license. And I think knowing that we're in the business of supporting these tools, we got some strange looks with the whole Office 365. People thought it's just Office, and they sort of confused that with classic Office desktop software. And so I'm glad for this rebranding effort because it kind of encompasses the total cloud solution market, not simply an Office client or an Office replacement. So I think it's a long time coming, and yeah, it'll go through a little bit of pain as people kind of figure out what that means. But I think a year from now, we won't even be talking about it anymore. What do you think, Paul?
I agree, and the changes are going to happen slowly, but I think that you're going to see a lot of people that are going to be excited about having that Windows license and all the other tools that Microsoft has out there that are part of the entire thing, and get people excited about what all they have access to, like Teams.
Yep, cool. Hey, just as a reminder, so everybody, this is our first foray into this live streaming event, and it's intended to be kind of informal. We don't want to do a webinar, we don't want to do a podcast. We want to kind of keep it fluid. So we have different topics. If anybody is joining us, and we're not sure how many because it's our first time, so we don't have any existing followers. If you want to put any questions into the comments, to the live comments, we'll address them to the best of our ability. And if not, we'll kind of run through sort of a series of topics. Paul, you want to just maybe give like a quick agenda of the stuff we're trying to cover so people maybe can prepare or tee up for
it? Yeah, so our next one is co-authoring. And, I did a video on this that is in our library, and had some feedback on that, where some people watched it and really enjoyed learning all about how useful it is. It's just a couple minutes long. So,
yeah, cool. You want to say anything else about co-authoring, or you want to dig into that a little bit?
Yeah, let's go ahead and dig into it.
Okay. So one of the reasons why we picked co-authoring as a topic is it's one of our most often requested kind of training exercises. A lot of people hear about it. They know kind of what it does, but not really sure. And so I would call it not a hidden gem, but a gem that's in there that people don't quite understand completely. And so we get a lot of requests for training. And it's a great feature. And the nutshell, I'll take it a little bit more of a business perspective if Paul wants to cover more technical, is the ability to sort of really push not sending attachments in emails anymore. The concept of not renaming files, downloading files, and then renaming them and uploading them back into the same document library with your underscore comments or dates or your initials and all that sort of stuff. And so we're really trying to get people to understand that you can update the same document. Multiple people can update it at once. There's no more file locking, no more issues with I have to check this document out and work on it over the weekend. People can update it in real time together, see the changes the other people are making, and you can apply comments inline. So you can have comments that still live in the document or comments that live in Teams, so that when the document leaves, the comments that lived in Teams don't necessarily travel with it. So different places to apply different types of comments. Total visibility into who has access to the document or who has updated it, the version history. Super kind of easy. Like Microsoft's done a much better job streamlining that. And it's super valuable for us when we're kind of all, kind of collaborating on documents to make comments about it and work on it and see what other people are doing and kind of get it done. So I think it's a great feature.
Yeah. And from a technical perspective, some of the stuff that you need to be aware of is, you don't want to have giant documents. So if you have a lot of stuff that needs to be worked on, there's a file size limitation. And so you can break out your document into multiple pieces and let multiple people work on multiple sections. And then you can bring all that back together just by merging all those documents when you're ready for a final solution. And that helps with bringing all the styles into one style and allowing for everybody to work on documents faster, because you get a giant document, you're trying to work on it, you're going to start running into errors that are going to crop up that kind of unintentional. So, and we don't want to start with old documents either. So if you have a old .doc file, you need to upgrade that to current version of Office, so.
Good. And Microsoft's, they've announced the new kind of like document fragment, the sort of fragmentation model. Are you familiar with that?
Not yet. No.
Okay. I think it's early discussions, but and I didn't do a whole bunch of research on it, but it looks like you can basically take chunks of functionality that you can embed in documents, and it could be a little Power BI report or a chart or a clause or a phrase, like a paragraph, and you can isolate that as its own item and reuse that across all different aspects of the sort of platform. So I want to jam it into a wiki page on a team site, but then I also want to use it in a document. But then the source item, let's say it's a little paragraph or a chart, can still be managed discreetly on its own. So it's like an assembly of base products instead of sort of a copy and paste of stuff into Word documents, which I thought was pretty cool, and kind of like the whole classic like service-oriented architecture, right, where you're peering in to get something in real time instead of making a copy and moving it out somewhere else, which I thought was pretty interesting from a business process perspective.
Yeah.
So look forward to that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Fluid Framework getting a lot of adoption, where you can have a document that you're working on one language, and it automatically translates into all the other languages that your company needs to support. It'll be a huge boon for a lot of our customers. But having worked for international companies, being able to just designate the countries that you work in and choose those languages, and then it automatically does that for you. I mean, machine translation services was a hard one to work with, when it was a service application, but this offers a lot more flexibility. So,
awesome. All right, cool. What's next on the topic list?
So Teams has got a lot of updates that have come out, and a lot of things that are coming up. So the first one is chat pop-outs.
Chat pop-outs, love it. So anybody out there that uses Teams a lot, like I do, and you're working on a document or you're working in a team, and then someone chat pops up, and you're like, and you're sort of ADHD like me, and you're like, I got to go look at that right now. So I go do that, and then you're like traversing your way back to where you were working before. Super obnoxious. And so I've been powering for Teams Windows for a long time now. So we got a little taste of that, which is the pop out. So now if you're chatting with somebody, you could pop the window out, so you can have kind of your chat window, but then you have your main kind of work stream window too. And a little pro tip that we didn't put in our list here is that you can also do the Windows app, the whatever it is, and I'm not super technical anymore, but there's the client desktop install app, and then there's the Windows 10 app for Teams as well, and you can have that running simultaneously. So you can have two versions of Teams running within your tenant easily, plus the pop-out chat window, which gets you a little farther down the road for multitasking.
Yeah, I actually use the extension where you save a page as an app, and then you can run that. So for all the different clients that I have all the different Teams clients running in different Chrome windows, and then I can just roll through them and check any of my messages on all those other clients. So
it shows you how technical I am. That's what I did, but I didn't even know that's what I was doing until you reminded me. I use the browser extension, whatever you call it. Yeah, awesome. So anyway, I may not know as much as I used to, but I can read. So figure that out. Yeah, it's great. There's little tricks and tricks and tips to kind of use the tools a little bit better. And as the platform matures, you have to kind of find ways to work around things that are issues. So love it. What's next on the Teams updates, Paul?
The 7x7 massive window where you can get 49 people all on one screen. I mean,
why would you ever want to do that?
Well, I've been doing a lot of meetings after work, and where you're going to have a lot more people on the calls. And when you're having a lot of people talking and a lot of discussion, it's roundtable of different personalities, it's helpful to have all those pictures and seeing people's responses. Because like with Zoom, you get 20 people on a screen, and you have to scroll to the next page in order to get majority of the people. And sometimes there can be 5 or 6 pages. So scrolling down how many pages you have to go through to get everybody and see everybody's big improvement for me.
Yeah. No, I mean, I can see the value in certain cases. I don't know about everybody else, but I'm getting a little bit of the fatigue of the windows. I guess I didn't realize how much more difficult it is to look at a screen and people than to be in a room with people. And just to breaking up a little bit to see human beings made a big difference in my ability to kind of digest this stuff before. And now that's all we do. It's a little bit rough to the point where sometimes I don't even want to deal with cameras anymore. So I just, it's hard. It's hard to look at 47 faces on a screen at once. It's going to be difficult, but I see use cases for it.
Yeah, like our company meeting that we have where we can see everybody's face one time, it's great. And but when you're in a meeting and everybody's talking about a specific subject, we don't need everybody's camera on. So
Right. That's good. Now we just know we can't get bigger than 50 people.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Or, we're working on growing it, but I have to see.
All right. What's next?
Breakout rooms. Have you heard about this one?
Yeah. So we have been using Zoom for our Boy Scout leadership meetings and Boy Scouts, and we use breakout rooms there. So if you want to see something fun, just look at a bunch of 10, 12-year-olds like in a Zoom meeting together, and the background images and the stuff that they put up there is insanity. So yeah, we use breakout rooms to go into patrols. So I'm familiar with it and excited to see that in Teams. Now, do you want to give the overview of what that really technically is, Paul? Like just for people that don't know.
So basically, it takes you schedule one meeting, and then you can create different areas within that meeting in order to specifically put people into different groups and invite them to. So you start the entire meeting. Everybody joins the one call. The example that I've seen has been with teachers, where they're able to start the class. They get everybody through the discussion, and then they break out everybody into like 2 or 3 man groups, or divide the class into 4, and then you put everybody into the different groups. They go through and they work on their piece of the project together, and then everybody comes back at the end in order to present what they've done. And it's good for getting everybody on the same page and taking a meeting that starts out with a lot of people down to a work group. We used to call it a pizza group because you can split a pizza into 4 and feeds 4 people, and it's a really good way to work with people. So it's nice, when you can do that, and then being able to bring everybody back and take all those ideas, it'll be really good. So
yeah, I mean, essentially, it saves you a lot of time having to create separate meetings and then joining back into an old meeting. It just makes you sort of break apart, come back together again, right?
Yep.
So it's a useful feature. Yep. Good.
Yeah.
Cool. What else we got?
Lobby requirements.
Yeah, why don't you tell us what's coming for that?
So with lobby requirements, you can choose whether everybody has to join the lobby, or if you're going to have them sit in the lobby and actually let them see some information. Basically, just waiting for the meeting to actually start, and then you can join everybody at once. So.
Okay. All right. Cool. What about you heard anything for force ending a meeting?
For what?
Force ending. You know when like in Zoom, one of the positives of Zoom is that the organizer can end the meeting and there's no lingerers, right? And Teams designed to be a little bit more of a sort of a workplace professional application where just because the organizer leaves doesn't mean you necessarily want to can the meeting. Have you heard anything on the horizon about the ability to kind of say, all right, I'm forcing this meeting to end as the organizer, or is that not on the radar?
I haven't seen anything on it. That doesn't mean that there's not. So
just curious. I don't know how valuable it is to the audience out there. It wouldn't be important to us personally, but maybe a couple of use cases with customers. I'm not curious. Like, this is the kind of stuff I always want to hear from people. Like, what are you guys looking for? What pain points are you seeing? What do you need out of the platform? Good ways to either put some knowledge back in Microsoft's hands or sort of use some training to work around those issues.
Yeah, and any of those features are good for submitting to the user voice. So
yeah, absolutely. User voice, great place. The more people that clamor for something, the more Microsoft listens. So good place to voice your not complaints, but your enhancements.
Yep.
Okay.
So next is Teams provisioning, and we've been using this for a lot of different clients to build out all the tabs and all the pages, all the channels. It's really a cool technical tool to be able to automate and script up.
Yeah. So Teams provisioning, right? Let's take a little bit of a history lesson here. SharePoint in the old days, SharePoint 2003 probably is really when I guess it got bad. The back in we call it the Wild West days, where hey, anybody gets a SharePoint site, create a SharePoint site, go get them, Tiger. And next thing you know, you got thousands of sites with documents. There's no retention policies, no nothing. The names, you get 65 sites that all sort of map or overlap with the same project. No one knows which ones to join. Some files are in some are in others. It's kind of like just the file share days of create stuff wherever you want and good luck. And search is not good enough to overcome that problem. So same thing with Teams. Teams is going to go in the same direction if people don't use some of the common sense they learned from SharePoint, since they have a lot of similarities. So Teams provisioning, right? Is the biggest request is it's a part of a governance process that I'd like to at least dive into a little bit here. Is the concept of thinking about what you want to do with these tools before you just lay them out and go for it. So, and one of them is, what do we want to use Teams for? What type of naming convention should we have? Should we be tagging these? Should we be using templates? Should we have a retention policy, archiving? And so you're not just creating teams and the same team over and over again unknowingly. Have a little bit of structure to it. And so this provisioning tool is, the other side of a governance policy, just one small part of the governance policy that talks about and automates how you collect data to potentially provision a team for somebody. After you've made sure that one doesn't already exist, you should have rights to do this. Is there already an Office 365 group or team that exists for this? What does it need to be tagged with? What does it belong to? And therefore, if it's a certain sort of segment of your workloads, how should it be named? Right. And so it just lets you automate that process instead of just a willy-nilly random request to IT where they have to go back and forth asking questions. Fill out the form, make a decision, hit the button, off you go.
Yeah. Right? And it allows for a lot of.
Go ahead. Sorry, Paul. Go ahead. We read a bunch of stuff to make that all happen, right?
Yeah. And the best part is, you get to set all your best practices up front. So, that way you're not creating more work for yourself later on and trying to go back and manage all this information and find out where it's all at.
So what is it? I mean, I've seen some screenshots, seen how it worked a little bit. Like I said, I used to be a technical guy. Can you maybe dive in, give us a 30-second sort of overview on what we've built and written that we've kind of deployed for some customers about Teams provisioning? You have any familiarity with that?
So I know that Justin set it up where they have a Power App at a client, and they request a site, and then it goes through an approval process. Once that approval process is done, it uses the information within that form in order to start a Microsoft team. And then it provisions all of the people that are owners and the members, and then creates all the channels, all the tabs, all the information's out there, links up all the tools so that it's completely working. And then, it helps to expedite a lot of the creation of those teams when you have a large company. So.
Yeah, I mean, I like the fact that it kind of creates the whole structure for you too, and so you can change bits and pieces of it, and I assume it's all sort of PowerShell or scripted on the back end, right, or something like that. Yeah, so
it's a little bit of PowerShell, Azure functions.
Okay, cool stuff. Yeah, I mean, these are the kind of things that you can make that as robust as you want. Right? I'm remember back to my developer days where you build a whole system around that, and then you could fire off some information to a database somewhere or a list. So now you keep track of things that with some certain extra metadata that maybe you can't track out of the box. So people go look and see like a date this was created, what template was it built on, what's its archive, what categories does it fall into. Really easy to automate all that. Once you kind of have the system down, it's just a kind of a push data after that. So gives you some options for managing if you expect to get a little bit of sprawl and you want to try to maintain it. Better to spend a little bit of time and money up front, I think, than the cleanup effort down the road. Plus the risk, the data loss risks of sort of the rogue stuff out there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we're heavy into governance, as you know, and so that's my shout out to anybody listening is take a little bit of time. It doesn't have to be a major exercise. We talk to a lot of people about governance, and they start to tighten up, and they think, oh man, 6 months of information architecture and metadata and data and Azure information protection and labeling. You don't have to do all that. Like, it's ask yourself some basic questions and to protect yourself at the onset. Just look at the questions, make sure that they are important to you to get going, and then revisit it, right? So we have a whole process for revisiting governance so that it doesn't get stale, and you kind of add to it as your maturity level increases or your business needs change. So it doesn't have to be a huge undertaking. You could spend a week or so total and really get something decent to get you started where you feel like you got a handle on it.
Yeah, and governance isn't something that you're going to get right the first time. It's something that needs to grow with the company. You're going to have things that pop up. New tools are going to come out all the time, and if you're not working in a governance model where you discuss how the impact of that tool is going to work, then you're going to get it into the wild west. We saw, like you pointed out earlier, with SharePoint, and we've seen it with Exchange. I've seen it with Teams. I mean, Yammer. It's all the tools have it. It's just a matter of getting that governance so that you have a method to go forward so that you can manage it. And it's just about being able to manage it properly, when stuff goes away and how stuff is elevated. So, yeah,
and I think you hit on the key point that I sort of glommed onto there, which is, you're not going to get it right out of the gate. That doesn't mean you're going to get it wrong out of the gate. It just means you're not going to get it completely correct out of the gate, which is why a lot of the classic methods for governance and intranet builds and sort of application builds failed, is because the waterfall method of, well, we think we know what everybody wants and needs, so we build that, and then we go off to do something else. And it turns out it wasn't quite accurate, and the more time goes by, the less accurate it becomes, right? And so there's no stickiness to the solution. And the method of spreading that out and sort of continue to do care and feeding, creates that opportunity to continue to revisit and clean up after your mistakes. It's like what we tell our kids all the time, right? It's okay to make mistakes. Make a lot of mistakes. Just learn from them. Don't just keep making the same ones over and over again. So you'll constantly improve if you do that. And that's the way we kind of approach governance, intranets, some of these collaboration features, because there's just constant change and constant needs that you can't just address at once.
Yeah, it needs to be agile in how you treat it. Because you got to be ready for every tool when it comes out.
Yep.
So you don't want to burden yourself with something you can't use, but you also don't want to get thrown behind the 8 ball. So.
Totally. Cool. What we got? One more topic? We're trying to keep it to a half hour, right?
Yep. So real quick, we've put together a company directory within our own Timlin tenant. It's a tool that allows us to see all the different people, and it's a tab right in our Teams. This is something I'll definitely be wanting to show off next time. It was, all done for internal purposes, and we've got a method for being able to push this out to all of our other clients that want to use it. So,
yeah, that's awesome. So we could talk. What we should do is maybe if anybody's on the line and listening and wants to take a look at it, and we're happy to just send you a screenshot. It's just that we're being in this world of security these days, we don't really have a good demo version of it with a bunch of fake people, so we don't feel comfortable giving our own people's PII out to all you guys. So you're welcome to our employees for being smart. But happy to show it to you and describe it to you, right? So it's essentially, on the left-hand side of Teams, you got the add-in, the ellipsis down at the bottom for you can add in apps. So you can add in company directory, and then it's a straight Teams window like everything else, and it's a pretty good employee directory with search and sort and filter, and it's got your kind of basic Delve-looking interface. Nothing fancy, but certainly helpful and better than trying to go buy some third-party tool that doesn't integrate or go to Delve, right? You could go to Delve and get a lot of the same information, but that's not readily accessible to a lot of people. They don't really even know it's there. And since Teams is becoming the hub of activity, almost like what the intranet people hoped used to be, now people jump off from Teams. And so now Teams is the place where you kind of want to stick some of that, let's call it ongoing data needs, right? The lunch menu, the employee directory, that kind of stuff. So it's a pretty simple application that we built, and happy to sort of show it to people. We don't sell it as a product or anything like that, but I'll find the way to get it in people's hands if we need to. Something cool anyway.
Yeah. So that's all we have for today. Some of the stuff that we talked about, just to recap, was changes to Microsoft 365, document co-authoring, some changes that are happening within Teams, and the company directory that we have. And all these, can be some tools that help you excel at work, and Teams functionality that helps make it much more feature-rich. So,
thanks, Paul. So for anybody out there that's either listening live or stumbles on this later, we have a form out there. We're collecting questions. Would love to get you guys that do want to kind of be a little more engaged or involved with this, or hear some more sort of informal talk about some of the tools or capabilities, or even want a little demonstration, but you don't want the sort of stuffy webinar format. We do on LinkedIn, and or if you subscribe, I'm sure we'll put it on the subscription list too, the link to the form, and it can be anonymous, I guess, or whatever. Put in a fake email address. We don't care. We're not going to hound you with sales stuff. But go ahead and throw out any questions you have about, hey, can you guys cover, can you show us co-authoring? Can you cover this Teams provisioning tool and show us what it looks like? Whatever it is you're interested in, we want to hear the topics, and we want to kind of present that to you. It's not for us, it's for you, right? It's for you to hopefully get some information out of what we're doing here and what we kind of live and breathe every day, and maybe you can get some value out of it, right? And if not, you never know what you're going to stumble on. So hope that you can find it useful.
Yeah. Want to thank everybody for watching. Thank you, Ryan, for joining me.
Anytime.
If you're watching this, just remember to click the subscribe button down in the bottom, and like and subscribe. And then you can catch all of our discussions. Also follow us on LinkedIn. Both me and Ryan are pretty active on our LinkedIn profiles, and you can also follow Timlin Enterprises there. So thank you very much for your time.
Love it. Thanks, Paul. Appreciate the effort you put into this, and thanks everybody. And hopefully we'll see you again soon.
All right. Thank you.